Okay. Hi, everyone. It's Crystalline, and I am here with the second session of the Midlife on Fire masterclass series. And this is a series that I'm teaching. I started on Monday. Today's Thursday, so this is the second session. There's one more session that we're going to have on Tuesday of next week. I hope you can make it. What we're doing is we're looking at how you can light up your midlife and take it from being a midlife crisis and a dark night of the soul into being a midlife rebirth where you are awakening to your next level and understanding that your that this period of your life can actually be the best period of your life. So let's get started. First of all, my name is Crystalline, and I'm the founder of Badass Butterfly Alchemy. And I work with women who are in midlife, who are struggling with burnout, who have even hit rock bottom. And I help you rebuild yourself from the inside out. My work is always originating in spirituality, but I believe that we are holistic. So I'm not totally woo woo. So we work from the inside out. So we work with the spirit, we work with the mind, we work with the physical body, but we also work with your material world. We look at your money, we look at your home, we look at your lifestyle, as well as all the internal things, your relationship with source, your relationship with yourself, your mindset, your beliefs, all those things. All right. So that's the kind of work I do. I wanted to talk to you all, and I wanted to start teaching you all this kind of an approach that I find to be unique. Very often, traditionally with midlife, we focus on menopause, we focus on aging and beauty. And while all those things are incredibly important, to me, being being the woo-woo spiritual coach that I am, all of those things come after your relationship with the divine. And that divine is God's source of all, however you call it. But it's really understanding that the divine is in you and that you are divine. Now, in our world, we are constantly covering up that divinity with stuff. We're covering up that divinity with work. We're covering it up with family, with kids, with media, politics, all these things that are of this world. Those things obscure the light that we are. Now, when we met last week, we talked about the truth of who you are being a, a vast field of light. And from early childhood, well, and actually before we talk about what happens, we need to understand what it means to be light. So everything in the world is light. Everything is moving, even inanimate objects like this glass case. It looks solid. Doesn't it look solid? I swear, this thing looks so solid. It feels solid. But if we looked at it under a high-powered microscope, we would see that everything is moving. So everything is always moving. We are high vibrational beings. That's the truth of who we are. The slowed down version is not the truth. That's just the slowed down version. So for me, and when I'm working with people, because I see what I've just said as the truth, to me, the most logical thing would be to start with that light of who you are, to get in touch with it, to expand it, to bring more of it into your life. And here's the thing. So I'm going to use the metaphor of the football field. that is all light, letting that be purely who you are. When you come into this world as a baby, you've got no limitations. There's no separation between you and the world. You are just pure light. And so as you start to grow, there are impositions that are placed on the light. So, for example, you want to go running over there and you're told, no, don't do that. And you're told no several times. And so you start to build up these little no's that go on top of your light. And depending on how your parents raised you and what's going on in your family, you might have some severe no's. So, for example, I'll take um, let's say that you are in a family where alcoholism is part of the culture. I'm trying to be delicate right now, but let's say you have a family where with an alcoholic. There are lots of limitations that are going to be put on your light. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's covering up your light, and that is stopping you from living your best life and being able to actually let that light shine purely. Okay. With that being said, my work is to help you tear down those structures so that that light can come through. But here's the thing. The universe is already doing that work for you if you are a midlife woman. So I like this. I want you to imagine that football field of light. And I want you to imagine that from your childhood all the way up through everything that you've experienced to yourself, to your life right now, all those things you've experienced have created structures on top of your field of light. So you have a whole city built on top of your light, and you can hardly see the light at all. Now, depending on what you've gone through and how you conduct yourself, you might have a very organized city that's actually quite beautiful. But if you really did come from a family where alcoholism, drug abuse, or sexual abuse, financial, impoverishment, mental illness, anything, losing a parent at an early age, abandonment, there are so many things that can be adding to your field of light, structures that are not pretty. So it doesn't matter though. Here's the thing that's really interesting at midlife. Midlife doesn't care how beautiful your structures are, and it doesn't care how ugly your structures are. What it cares about is the light that's underneath. And this is what modern explorations of midlife is missing. Your source energy, the truth of who you are, and I want you to imagine that golden light buried beneath all the structures that life has built, human life has built. I want you to imagine that light rising up and saying, no more. All of those old structures must be torn down. Now, for me, I like to organize my systems of thought. So as a coach, my system of thought is that there are 12 major areas that every single person has in their lives. And when we deal with all 12 of those areas, we really are like touching on a lot of different things. The 12 areas are vast and they apply to all humans. So when that light is rising up, it is causing disruption in your life. So, as a midlife woman, if you think about some of the issues that you've gone through, there are lots of issues around health, as we've said, but there are also issues around our parents. Our parents are getting elderly, maybe they're getting sick, having accidents. My sweet neighbor who like fell down the stairs and, she refuses to walk with a cane, but, she's got that pride, but she's like, she stumbled down the stairs and hurt her leg. So so her kids are having to go in there and take care of her. It can be your own children struggling with the things that they're struggling with. It can be your own health, your physical health. Um, for me, uterine fibroids were a big issue. Anemia was a big issue. I lost my mom to cancer, right? So and it was at an early age. She was still in midlife when she died of cancer. So all of these things are coming in at midlife, and it feels like there is a crisis, and there is a crisis. But the crisis is not coming, the source of the crisis is always blamed on external things. And what I want you to understand is that it's actually an internal thing. And even though it is very disruptive and can be terribly frightening and also very sad, it's sad to lose the people that we love. It was very sad for me to lose my mom. It's very difficult to go through cancer. It's difficult to deal with a sibling who has who is struggling with a mental health disorder. All of those things are really challenging. But again, keep in mind that I'm coming from a spiritual perspective, and that spiritual perspective says that you are the source, you are divine, you are connected to God. And what wants to happen is that divine self wants to rise up and wants to take over. It wants to take over you, but it also wants to take over the world. And when I say that, what I mean is the more you allow your divinity to shine, the more the world around you is going to respond to that. So right now, your divinity is covered beneath all the structures you've built on top of it. Mental structures, identity structures, belief structures, time structures, all your perceptions. Okay, I perceive the world in this way. That's a limitation that is put on top of your light. So you are in a position where you believe in your structures, but your light does not believe in your structures. That's the difference between your egoic self and your true self. Your egoic self believes in the structures, and you, being the consciousness within, we tend to identify more with ego because it's visible, it's tangible. This we tend to identify with the solidity of this more than the vibrating frequency of this, right? So we say this is real, okay, because we can feel it and touch it. So your true self, your God self, knows that this is not real, that the vibration and the light beneath this foundation, this structure, that's what's real. So when you come into midlife, again, we talked about this last week when Uranus comes around halfway and it's causing a revolution. Uranus is causing a revolution in the totality of your being. Other planets are contributing to this as well. You've got Chiron that's contributing to this. But what's happening is your whole identity, your whole being really wants to change. And so the light is actually causing the upheaval in your life. And I know that sounds weird to say because we're always like, light is good. Light is light. Light is, light is above it all, but actually light is doing its job because light is expansive. Those structures that you put, things that are solid, are actually contracting. Like they're limiting. This is it. This is the case. It's always going to be just the case. If we look at it from the solid structure, it's just going to be the case. When we look at it from light, it becomes so much more. And you can also just be the structures that you've built, your perception, how you see the world, your personality, status quo, everything that you've been holding together or trying to hold together. You could do that. But if you're not expanding, you're basically contracting. If you're not growing, you're dying. So this upheaval that's coming is really about giving you life. And this is the problem with the way traditional philosophers and thinkers look at menopause and midlife. We think, oh, we're getting older. If you're not, you're getting older, you're dying. And actually, what I want you to understand is that you are actually being reborn. You are in the womb again, just like you were when you were a baby. So you really do have two lives, okay? You have that baby life where you came through the birth canal and you came into the world and you grew up. Okay. Remember, I said last week when you were born, it was a revolution. Uranus was stationed wherever it was, and that was the revolution. You were born. Wow. Okay. Now, Uranus, midlife, Uranus is halfway around the zodiac wheel, and now it's another revolution. It's now another rebirth. So, while all these things are upheaving. Our parents are doing this, our health is doing that, our job, our work, our money. That's what we're going to be talking about in a minute. While all those things are happening, it feels so scary. And it is. I can acknowledge that it is scary, okay? But it really does just feel scary. The truth of who you are is not scared. The truth of who you are is that light within, and that's not scared because it's the one who is like, it is time for me to rise. So just like a caterpillar gets that calling to go into the chrysalis and to melt away, to die, okay? There is a part of you, all those structures need to die. So what is happening is the light is rising up and all of the structures that you've built on that field are going to topple. Your identity is going to topple. What you believed in is going to topple. Your perception is going to topple. And all of this is a very good thing. Why? Because it is how you get born. The truth of who you are gets born. All right. So that's my theory. Okay, so I want to thank you all for joining me here today. I'm really excited, and that is where I'm coming from. So the topic for today is about being visible as a midlife woman and the experience that a lot of women have. And look, there are a lot of women who have been feeling invisible since childbirth. And I mean, since they were born, okay? And people have never felt seen. There are people who have never felt seen. And we respect that. I was one of those people who didn't feel seen. As a matter of fact, well, and actually, I'll tell you my story if that's okay. Um, my story with being invisible is that when I was a kid, I had a lot of energy and I got a lot of attention because I was a precocious kid. I was smart and I spoke well. And because I was an only child, I was accustomed to hanging out with adults. So when I met an adult, I was not that, was never a kid to like not look an adult in the eye or to hide. I was, little kid. I never hid behind my mom, like, oh no, I'm shy. Like, no, I never did that. I always was like, hi, like, who are you? What do you do? And they used to call me Well, they chatterbox. They used to call me a chatterbox because I would just start talking. And I'd be like, "What are you?" Blah, 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 blah. So at some point, um, there was an amount of attention that I was getting from people that started to annoy the people around me. So people would address me, and for some reason, I got attention. It put pressure on other people. They didn't feel like I should be getting that attention, or that attention should be given to them, or I was some kind of a distraction. And so I was told that on a number of occasions by very important people in my life that my older people that I respected. And so being young and impressionable, and also being a natural people pleaser, that's part of my personality, I took that on and started to reduce myself and contract and start becoming less and less visible. And so I am someone who uh, had visibility and then became invisible and had to really fight to be seen again. And who did I have to fight to be seen? Myself. And all those structures I built up. All right. And this is going to be this is going to be really important to understand for what we're talking about. You built those structures that made you invisible. For those of you, and if you're someone if you're watching this and you are having an issue with invisibility, go ahead and type it in the comments, or send me, if you're watching the replay, send me an email and tell me about your issue with being seen and what that looks like for you. For me, it looked like not, it looked like walking into a room and nobody turns around, going to stand at the bar, out with my friends, going to stand at the bar, and all the people around me are getting served drinks, and the bartender never looks at me like I don't exist. It could be walking um, into a clothing store, and people coming and standing in line in front of me. Like I'm standing in line trying to check out, and somebody just kind of comes and stands in front of me, and then I have to tap them and be like, "I'm sorry, I'm here. The line's back there." Like, oh, oh, oh. It can also be like being the only girl at the dance who no one asks to dance with. Um, all kinds of things, especially around men and women, sexual tension and power. Um, yeah, there can be a lot around that. That was huge for me throughout my teens, my 20s, my 30s, even into my 40s, right? And and the way I tried to cope with that was to try to get attention, like I didn't realize that it was I didn't realize that it was my structures that created the invisibility. I thought it was the outside world, so I tried to fix the outside world. I try to dress in a certain way. I'd walk up to people and try to flirt in a certain way. But it wasn't an issue of flirting because people were seeing me. I actually have a body. I actually have presence. I was seen, but I couldn't see that I was seen. And the stories I kept telling myself was that I'm not seen. And so those stories started repeating themselves. And when I got to being in my own business, I had a lot of trouble being seen. I would be doing lots of work, putting things out, and getting very little response from people. And I had to look at my mindset and those beliefs to see why I wasn't being seen. I did not realize that I was, angry and didn't want people to actually see my work. There was a subconscious thing where I was just like, you're not going to appreciate me, so I'm not going to give it to you, like I don't want you to have this because I'm not going to cast my pearls at swine. That was my subconscious, bitter, angry, sad, resentful self saying those things and creating these circumstances. So When I say that your field of light is ready to rebel, your field of light truly is ready to rebel, because I know that if I have those kinds of subconscious dialogues, and if I have all those structures, you probably do too. If you are having an issue in your midlife, whether it's around invisibility or if it's around your health, it has something to do with the way you're thinking and those structures that you have built on top of your light. And your job is to um, tear those structures down, deal with the fallout, because there will be fallout. Okay, we can't just, well, yes, deal with the fallout and then rebuild yourself with the light leading as opposed to the ego leading. All right. So, what I want to talk to you about today is a particular type of invisibility. Now, I've already told y'all that I work with like 12 different sectors of life, and that helps me cover everything that my clients could need. I can cover them one under one of those aspects of life, or all of them. We work with all of them basically. Today, though, I want to focus on one, and that is the financial sector of life. Financial invisibility is hugely problematic for midlife women. There are a number of insecurities that come, and I want to talk to you about those. I have 7 of them that I want to share with you, and I'm gonna tell you the solution right now. Well, I'm going to tell you part of the solution right now, because I think you already know what the solution is. You already know that the solution is to get in touch with that light and bring that light forward. But the question is, how do you do that, right? Look, being very honest with you, that is work. You need a community, you need structure, you need guidance, okay? You can do it yourself through prayer and meditation, yes, without a doubt. But doing it with someone else is better. That's why this is why I teach this stuff, because it's my passion. I've already done the work, so you don't have to figure out what the steps are. I'm happy to take you through the work, in a group or privately in my community, through my workshops and books and things like that. Absolutely. Um, the solution is to work with your light and work with your light in all 12 of those houses, bringing the darkness up, all right, looking at those structures that you've built, dismantling those, laying them down as gently as we can, okay? And if they can't be laid down gently, then just letting them collapse. That's okay too, because you're safe. You are light. You are not solid, right? You're solid a little bit, but before you're solid, you're light. And so you're safe always. But starting there and starting that rebuilding process. And yeah, and I like systems. Okay. So I take people through things systematically. I'm going to give you, actually, actually, before we end today, I'm going to show you my system, and I'm going to talk to you about it, and, and give you a good understanding of how it works, so that you can see if it's something that you like. If you like the method, then we can talk more about it. If it doesn't resonate, then you'll know that. Okay. But I want to talk to you about the financial invisibility in midlife, and I've got my notes here. So there's 7 different, um, 7 different ways that you can experience financial invisibility. So the very first one is through income disruption. So this is what happens when you something happens at work, something happens with your job. You lose your job, you get laid off, you have an accident, or you have to God forbid, I mean, you get sick, you have to take off. You're dealing with medical bills, these kinds of things can happen, but you're not working. All right. So what happens is you start to, um, you're now not having income. And what that does when you don't have income, what it does to your psyche is incredible. Your sense of value, your sense of worthiness, um, your sense of significance, you feel helpless, powerless. All of these things come in, and they now, instead of you rising with that golden light of who you are, what happens is you start building now new structures because you've never not had a job before. You've always worked. You've always been the responsible one. You've always taken care of everybody else. So now you've got no job, or you're off work and you can't do it like you used to do it. So there's an identity shift, and you're now telling yourself new stories about how you're not adequate, you're insufficient, you don't have enough. How is this going to work? And that light is starting to get more and more obscured. Now, here's the thing. Even though, even though there is more pressure, the wonderful thing about pressure, whether it's financial or health or, divorce in your relationship or sickness in your family, the wonderful thing about those things is that it does put pressure. And it's when we collapse under the pressure that the light can actually rise. I was just writing about this today. My greatest transformations came when the pressure was so great that I just collapsed, and I just couldn't. And I was forced to let go and let God. So I don't mean to sound insensitive when I say, all this pressure is good, but ultimately it's doing its job. Those things happening in life are not actually meant to torture you. They're they're there to expand you. I remember when my mom died, like right before she passed, that maybe that day before she passed, she didn't say it with her own words, like her own mouth, because she was I guess in a coma. Not, it wasn't quite a coma. It's this stage when people are dying, like in dying of this particular type, of this cancer, where there's just this incredible presence. Like, I found that my mom had incredible presence in the last 4 days before she died. Um, it was incredible presence. She wasn't saying anything. She wasn't doing anything. Just, and what I got from her was, I'm going to be of much better help to you on the other side of life than I was on this side. And that was very powerful. Now, my point is, we are not physical beings. My mom is here. She just is. Always has been. And the more aware we are of the dimensions that are here for us, the more we will embrace this midlife change, the more opportunity that's here for us. All right. So these 7 financial forms of forms of invisibility that are based on finances are scary, and they also have a role to play in your expansion. If you lose your job is to get up and create. what's coming next, right? And you do that with the light, not with fear. Not going to create out of fear. You're going to create from light and understanding who you are truly. So that first one is financial disruption. Now, the second one is the professional, right? So the professional status, your professional status shifts. This is where, like, you're working on your job and you've been working there, you've been working there a long time, and somebody younger comes in, somebody newer, younger comes in, and they get promoted around you, or somehow you're made less relevant. I'm thinking about one of my clients, and she had been working on this job and doing software development for a big health firm organization. And, she does all this coding and she does all these things and she works with all these guys, and younger men keep going in and getting, promoted before her, even though she's got all this, a wealth of knowledge, and the fear, though, there was so much fear around her. She didn't want to rock the boat. Um, she didn't feel like her credentials were as high as their credentials, because she got her credentials. Most of her education was done in Jamaica, and so she didn't feel like that was somehow adequate, even though she was still doing the work, like she was doing the work successfully, right? And so she couldn't ask for the raise. And she kept seeing people come in and move ahead of her, even though they weren't doing as much work and they weren't doing the job. But again, the structures in the mind, the structures on the field that are obscuring the light, um, they seem real. And when you're acting from those structures, that's the problem. This is what happens, right? You start to believe. All right. So so now that's transforming. All right. Now, this is when the other thing, this is number three. Um, this is when you have like this kind of transition period where you are going from something old to something new, and you're doing that, and that causes the midlife crisis. Like, you're like, yes, I'm going to start this business, and you're 44 years old and you're going for it, and you're not getting that recognition. So you used to be, in corporate, and you had a great job, and or maybe you had a great job and you were a leader and everybody respected you, and now you're pursuing something else and you're just not having the outcomes that you want, and you're not earning that money. I remember when I made the shift in my business, I had been making, I was making a lot of money, and I was doing very well, and I built my business up. Oh my God. I built it up to, I was making 400, I remember $475,000. That was my top year. And I'm like, it is on, baby. 475. I know I can get myself to 1 million. I'll be at 1 million in a few years. And I shifted. I shifted because I had this passion for this thing that I wanted to do. And when I made that shift, nobody knew me as that thing. And I lost everything, and then I had the taxes came, and then this came, and then that happened. Ooh, ooh, the upheaval. My light was like, look, I need you to look at something. And I did. I did. I learned and transformed. That's why I'm teaching the way that I'm teaching right now. So when you're making these kinds of transitions, there can be a sense of invisibility. You don't have the power. You're not the leader. You're a leader still, but you don't have the attention and the draw that you used to, because you have to build it and you have to find your niche, you have to find your specialty, and you have to dance your way in and dance with it. And it's a transition, and it can make you feel invisible until until you become seen again, okay? Until you start getting your grounding and people start following you, and then blah, 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 and all the stuff starts to come for you again. But yeah, so number three is the transition period. Now, number four is about when there's mismanagement around your money. This one is particular to my heart because I never managed my money in the past, okay? So I only started managing my money about 5 years ago, and it's been a game changer for me. Like, actually managing my money means I actually get to keep my money, and that is so cool. I get to actually hold on to it. That's neat, and actually watch it grow, and like to actually have money that actually works for me and multiplies itself. That's cool. That's neat. Okay. But up until that 5 years ago, um, no, I did not manage money, which is why I, yeah, which is why I struggled, why I lost everything. And along with that, so mismanagement is a choice on one hand, but it's also a structure. Understanding that those structures that are put on the field are not always great structures that help you get things done. Many of those structures are things that hold you back. This issue of not managing. It's not even mismanaging my money. It is not managing. I did not manage my money, but I came from a family that did not manage money. My family never balanced their checkbooks. Nobody ever sat down and balanced their checkbooks. So I had a structure that was like, I don't manage money. Why should I? We don't do that. My family also said we don't buy houses, like they just my family. So, my point is that those kinds of structures are also creating are a financial source that creates invisibility. When I was not managing my money, what I was basically doing was perpetuating invisibility. I was perpetuating invisibility because when you don't manage your money, you can't you can't do anything. You can only do so much. And in this world, when you set up a situation where you only do so much, you're invisible. Your light is meant to do a lot. It is meant to create, it is meant to co create with God. And if you are struggling because you didn't manage your money and now you got debt and you got bills and you got taxes like I did, then what you're co-creating with God is just you creating more mess. God can't God can't do that with you. Like God wanted for me to do what I'm doing right now, to teach, to help thousands of women. That's what I'm doing now. I couldn't do that back then. Why? Because I wasn't managing my money. What was I doing? I was spending all my time, looking at the big mess that I made and feeling sorry for myself, feeling shame, feeling like I don't deserve, creating more of the I don't deserve, which was already there in the structures on top of the light. I hope this is all making sense. Okay. I hope it's making sense. If it's not, you all can put your comments in put your questions in the comments. All right. Number 5, multi-generational financial drain. Now, this is when you are cruising along, doing your work, saving your money, and you've got other people who are demanding things from you. For example, your parents are older and maybe they've gotten, sick or something's happening. And look, I use myself as an example because I'm such a great example, and my family is such a great example. We're wonderful people. And at the same time, my family has financial issues. My dear grandparents, God bless them. My grandmother is still alive. My grandfather has passed on, but they lost their house at the age of 90. How you gonna lose your house at the age of 90? This is what I'm talking about when I talk about, like, Crystalline has some structures that are kind of weird in her, around money. This is what I had to overcome. And this is what I teach because I know I'm not the only person out there with some strange structures around money, because I'm actually doing okay. I'm actually figuring it out. And now I'm at the point where I'm able to actually thrive. And now I get it. But I know that there are lots of people out there who are struggling and don't understand that it's an internal process, not an external process. We blame the external way too often. So, multi-generational financial drain comes when other people in your family basically need you and they need your financial resources. So my grandparents couldn't stay in their home, and they didn't have enough money saved, to be able to, well, we had to make some decisions for them. My in midlife, my aunt and mom, when my mom was alive, had to step in and take care of my grandparents. And maybe you all are doing that as well. Maybe you all are stepping in and taking care of your parents if they're suffering from dementia. It could be financial issues like my grandparents, or it could be health issues, which my grandparents also have. Dementia has now settled in and all this kind of thing. Somebody has a stroke. It could be a sibling who is struggling with something, or your own children. Maybe your grandchildren are coming back into your life because your children are not able to take care of them, and so they need you to step in. Maybe you find yourself needing to babysit. After work, the grandkids are coming over to be with you so that your children can go out and work. All of these things start to put pressure on you so that you are seen as the caregiver and provider, but that's not the truth of who you are. That's not all of who you are. Who you are is that light underneath. And that light is not being seen because maybe you need to be doing something else. We need to listen to that light to find out what you should be doing. What very often I discover, or we discover with my clients, is that they want to be writing books. They want to be starting businesses. They want to be traveling the world. They want to be, painting. They want to be doing all kinds of things, starting school, starting a foundation. They want to be, doing all kinds of things except for taking care of everybody else, which they've been doing. But again, understanding that everything begins on the inside, and understanding that there are some structures in the mind that are creating these circumstances, and that you can change those things and create different circumstances for yourself. All right. All right. Number 6 is delayed dreams. Now, this is where so many women are totally, totally invisible. Now, the way I'm looking at invisibility, I'm basically saying what you see is the physical, and that's not the truth. So if I look at you and I'm like, oh, you're the caregiver, or if that's the title that you've given yourself, or if that's the role that you're playing in your life, um, what we're seeing is not the truth of who you are. That's the role that you're playing. The truth of who you are is the light beneath that, which might be really, really creative. So when I was struggling with debt and finances years ago, what I learned was that the truth of who I am did not do debt. She did not spend money she didn't have. And she was a writer and a dancer, and she loved life. And so she was out, she wanted to be out living, not home working so hard so she could make that money. That's not what she wanted. So the role that I played was an in debt person. And the way that showed up was the way that outpictured was that I had to work all the time. So that's invisibility. It's not, I wasn't seeing the truth, right? It's a mask. That's where the invisibility comes in. It is a mask. And it's not a mask that we want to be wearing, right? So understanding that your the light that is the field of light that has a totally different agenda than the things that you are struggling with and the areas where you're playing small. You're not necessarily struggling all the time, but my question is, are you actually going for your big dreams? Are you even aware of what your big dreams were? I didn't know that I had huge dreams below the surface. I thought my big dream was, oh yeah, travel the world, live in France, have my own business, and and make $500,000 a year. I thought that I had reached my dream. Okay. And a lot of people would be like, Crystalline, that's a good dream. Like you reached, that's successful. A lot of people would agree with that. And I agreed with that until I saw the truth of the woman that was beneath, and how when I talked to that light and I allowed her to come through, she showed me something that was infinitely bigger than what I saw for myself from this perspective. I believe that you have um, that in you as well. And whatever it is you're thinking that you want to do for yourself, you're going to find that there is much, much more to you than meets the eye. And this is what invisibility looks like. Invisibility is playing it small, making small choices, and not understanding that the truth of who you are is significantly more expansive and wants much, much more. All right, now the very last one here. This last one is, I wonder if you all can relate to this last one. Um, this is something I've really, really transformed in myself, but I hear it a lot still. So this one is called generational competition. So this is where younger people are just more aggressive, particularly younger women are more aggressive, and they really just negotiate power more with more confidence. And as a mature woman, the mature woman that I am today is very comfortable in her skin and very comfortable negotiating and being in my power. I'm very comfortable, but that's because I've had a breakthrough. Before, I was not so comfortable. I was afraid of younger women. I was afraid of younger women sexually. I was afraid of younger women in the marketplace, like in work. I was afraid of younger women running. I like to run, and I was afraid of younger women because they were faster and stronger and more limber, you know, all the things. So that number 7 is about becoming invisible. Financially, particularly, is where we're focusing, but it's when you see younger people making more money than you do, and it does a little something something inside you. And, these younger women are maybe able to move faster. They understand technology better. They are also more empowered to ask for more, maybe even before they even have proven that they can deliver. And they do it and they get it. And that can be very infuriating for people. And that can make you feel very invisible. So those are the seven um, forms, the ways that you can be invisible, the seven forms of invisibility, financial invisibility is what I'm trying to say. And here's the thing, my solution comes through um, working holistically with yourself. I've mentioned those 12 houses or those 12 sectors. In my humble opinion, doing just one sector and ignoring the rest is probably not a great strategy because, it doesn't, we really do need balance in order to be able to thrive. And I have found that imbalance, when I was young, I could tolerate it more. But once midlife hit, I really could not tolerate imbalance. My body was more sensitive, and my mind, my heart, my being was more sensitive. I couldn't tolerate it. And it showed in my body. So I do believe in working in a balanced way, 12 houses. Now, what I've put together is called the Midlife Woman Wealth Society. This is a membership program where where you come in every month and we basically work together and we work through each of those 12 houses and each of those 12 sectors, and we do work to help bring the light. So what is the kind of work that we do? Well, we have to do a little bit of shadow work and healing work because we have some wounding around. We built these structures because something was not right. We wouldn't have built a structure if everything was peaceful and happy. So there are some structures that are going to require some healing and shadow work. The thing is, by the time we're in midlife, most of us have already done a lot of work. So this program is not about going in and doing a lot of shadow work and deep diving into darkness. We've already done that. And if you're coming into this program and you're struggling, you're already in the darkness. We're going to address what's there. And then though, we're going to do a lot of what I call light work. Light work is where you're bringing that light up, bringing that light up, bringing that light up to the surface. So we are excavating so that we can remove all the barriers to your light so that you can basically discover who you truly are. When I looked at myself for the first time, my true self for the first time, what I discovered was a woman who is vivacious and she loves reading, she loves writing, she loves Paris with a passion. And you're like, Crystal, I know that. But no, she loves Paris in a different way. She knows things about Paris. I did not know that I knew things about Paris because they were hidden in my subconscious mind. And when I brought those things up, lots of things were revealed about myself. And it was incredibly powerful to discover who I truly am. And so part of the work that we will be doing is excavating so that we can discover who you are, especially on those 12 levels. That part of me that was buried also wanted to become a New York Times best-selling author. Now, knowing my true self, it's not about getting published and becoming the author. It's about going for it and not hiding from it. So my job is to now write the book that my heart wants to write, not the book that will sell, the book that my heart wants to write, and then I get to send it off to publishers. These are the things that I did not realize existed inside me. And once I discovered those things, it completely changed the trajectory of my life because because I had hit rock bottom, I saw that I had no choice but to do what the light said because my light was not going to let me not do what she said, right? So Now I'm living with that light and doing the things following that light. That's what we do in the program. Now, I am actually going to pop this in here. I'm going to, for those of you who are watching the replay, the link to learn more about the Midlife Woman Wealth Society is on the replay page. You can learn about it there. We are ready to get started now because we want to start with before the sun moves into Capricorn on December 21st. Okay. So signing up now is the best time because we're going to go in with some really important things. But here's the thing. Um, the link, if you're on the call live, ladies, I'm going to be there in just a second. I'm going to drop the link for you in just about a minute. But if you're watching the replay, you can get the link from the replay page. But I want to wrap up for the video section, the teaching section. We're all done for the day. And then for those of you who are on the call, we can just talk and I'd love to connect with you. And if you have any questions or if you just want to share your experience, I would love to hear your experience, answer any questions you have, and do all that thing. But I want to go ahead and close out the recording here. And thank you all so much for joining. All right. And yeah, I hope you're enjoying the replay. All right. Bye, y'all. Okay. So I'm stopping the replay, but don't hang up yet. I'm stopping the recording. Hold on. Stop recording.